Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of our podcast. Which today with me is Anuj. Anuj come with almost like 11 years of experience in sales GTM. He has started his career as an SDR and moved to head of GTM at Quizzes. So welcome Anuj to this podcast and thanks for doing this with us.
Thanks, Rohan.
So
Thanks for
yeah, before we proceed further, like why don't you give a quick introduction about yourself, how your journey has been from an SDR to being a head of GTM?
Yeah, sure. So I started my SaaS sales journey back in 2016 when I was working with Cycus. So I joined as a senior SDR there. That was the first time I shifted from my hometown Delhi as well. So both the office and the job were in Bombay. Spent 5 years there. Grew up the ranks organically from a senior SDR to like a assistant manager, then a SDR manager, like kind of a leadership position. Spent good 5 years there. Then I switched roles and joined a company called Wingify. Wingify has their flagship product called VW, and Wingify has also, I think, just been acquired by Everstone last year only. It's a PE firm. So in Wingify, my role was building the outbound function from scratch. Prior to me joining, there was no outbound function in Wingify. 99% of the revenue was coming from inbound. Me and a couple of other folks were hired just to build this outbound engine. In a couple of years, as far as my memory and knowledge goes, we were easily doing around 1 to 1.5 million revenue. And I was heading the outbound pipeline division for this. Next stint was with the Quizzes. Quizzes is an ed tech. So not the Byju's B2C ed tech, but more of a B2B ed tech where we were catering to K-12 schools and universities. And again, the Quizzes, like 97, 98% of their revenue was coming from only one geography, which is the US. So I was hired to kickstart their international sales engine, basically the ROW markets, everything apart from you. So we are talking about Canada, UK, entire European region, Middle East, Australia, Southeast Asia, Taiwan, Vietnam, Malaysia, Singapore, every single country on the planet apart from US. In 1 year, we took it from, I think, $100,000 to 1 million in ARR. And I joined as a founding account executive there and then was promoted to a head of sales in GTM in the ROW market. And the next year was around team building and basically growing this 1 million to another $4 to $5 million in revenue. Last year, I parted ways with Quizzes. And since then, what I've been doing is I've been working with early stage startups mostly in a fractional capacity, helping them figure out their 0 to 1 GTM motions. So I'm working with multiple startups right now, working with the founders directly, helping them establish their sales and GTM motions. So that's me.
That's great, Anuj. Thanks for sharing those details with us. Clearly, like you have been through like from the initial days of building like a product, or maybe starting from the inception of how the sales process works, be it from SDR to actually setting up the entire GTM process, right? Which you have already done in quizzes. So, just wanted to understand like how different it is like from an SDR point of view. Okay, when you're starting out. Um, what were your thinking when you were reaching out to your customers and your ICPs? Okay. What was your strategy? What was your the scripts which you have prepared? How did how did you reach out to people? Those objection handling and everything. So just wanted to understand more on that.
So, Prabhakar, I was in SDR back in 2016, and it's been 10 years. And
Okay.
the world has shifted a lot. The world has changed a lot. Not just, I think, everything around us, but also in our respective jobs and AI and in sales and in GTM. But back in 2016, it's an interesting question. And if I jog my memory, we were, I think, mostly driven in a way where we focused a lot on activity numbers. So I come from that universe where you have to complete your 50 calls in a day and write like 25 personalized emails with your hands in a day. And I was also working with a company which was into enterprise selling. Minimum 100, $150,000 in ARR in a single ticket size. So there, getting 3 to 4 qualified opportunities in a month and around 5 to 6 like unique meetings in a month. That was supposed to be our targets. Initially, it was a struggle because the entire world was new to me, not just of sales SDR, but also the entire complex procurement and supply chain solutions that Zycus was selling as well. So initially, it was a struggle, but I think I soon found my way out in terms of what really matters. And if I have to be honest, I was one of those rebels in the team who did not focus a lot on activity numbers, but focused more on output. So I remember I always used to tell my manager that if I can give you the same output, which is my targets, why do I need to like hit my activity metrics? And if my if my then manager watches this, I think today he will definitely be able to, I think, give you a thumbs up on this because I think I was one of the most rebellious people in his team back
Okay.
then. So my only agenda was, I think, hitting my numbers by hook or by crook. When it comes to the different aspects of pipeline generation function, so it involves a lot of what you said, like objection handling, cold call scripts, cold call openers, how to write like good personalized emails, how to do account research. And back then there was no AI. So we
Right.
used to like open investor reports, we used to open companies' research papers, financial reports, derive learnings from there, segregate them into some sort of an intelligence which stitches well with Zycus's offerings, and then pitch them in a personalized manner in a cold call or in an email, which today with AI seems so simple to execute, but back then it was a nightmare. So I even remember spending a couple of hours just on writing one single personalized email to a chief procurement officer. So I'm
Right.
coming from that world. And today, if I look at things, I think it's completely changed.
Right.
So yeah, I think it was a mix of I think research, it was cold calls, emails, right way to build pipeline, and also ensuring that consistency matters a lot. So if you have a bad month in a quarter, it just accumulates and compounds and can take an entire hit on your either quarter. So ensuring that you hit your numbers every single quarter, every single month was also something I think that I used to keep a very good track of. And I think soon these things became visible, I think, to the management and the leadership, which is why I got the chance to like mentor SDRs and then manage them in an official capacity. And even with Wingify, when we started the 0 to 1 function, so I built the entire SDR team of 10 to 12 SDRs from scratch. So obviously, I embedded the same kind of learnings that I had in the past 5 or 6 years with them as well. But also, it was very important to embed some very unique cultural aspects into your prospecting.
Okay.
Because the market keeps shifting. So the kind of
Right.
emails lines that worked in 2016 will not necessarily work in 2020. So we have to keep innovating with new creative ways in order to let our voice be heard, as well as not just on the calls, but emails and other modes of communication as well. So we used to be very in sync with culture, very in sync with what's happening on the ground, and ensure that our prospecting was not getting stale and yesterday's home run will not win you today's matches. So we always had this ideology in mind.
Right. Right. So Anuj, like that's setting and everything the SDR activities back then it is for sure like it was totally different. Researching like finding those right sort of intel information in order to do this cold calling or maybe writing certain hook points which creates that curiosity in terms of getting responses through email. Those was pretty difficult. Right now AI with coming in, things have become easier, but there is always this debate which are currently going in the market. Like AI, it is giving personalization, it is giving right sort of intel information, but there's always human in the loop which is required, be it for SDR activities or reaching out to the people with the right sort of information. So what's your take? How the SDR activities which has evolved from back 10 years back to now?
100%. And I totally agree with the human in the loop approach as well. But things have changed a lot, Prabha. So I gave you a couple of examples, right? The kind of account research that we used to do back then. Today, it can be done within a minute or two. If I know where the financial reports exist and what I exactly need, or even if I don't know, I have the ability to find it via AI as well, right? So it's not just how fast you can do it or effectively you can do it, but the most important thing that I think people miss today is what we call as human judgment or taste. right? Most of the things can be done very fast now with AI, very effectively as well, with high quality, high precision as well. But what needs to be done is still a challenge. Who goes to say that financial report is the right mechanism for me to research about the company when I'm working with client A, and not their maybe BRSR report or last year's auditory compliance report, right? So in order to make this call, that what matters, that's where I think the human in the loop is very, very essential today, because
Yes.
you can almost create anything today with AI, right? He like product is now commoditized. I'm hearing of stories of my ex company's clients who are building their own product to get rid of their client contracts. We have seen, I think, cases where someone created a replica of DocuSign and DocuSign tried to sue them. Right. So all of this is definitely possible. But I think what is not possible today is how do you know, how do you get to know what to do, what to make, what the market wants, and then, most importantly, once the product is commoditized, how do you build that moat? Because if not today, maybe a couple of years down the line, I would be as good as, let's say, 75% or 80% of a top developer if things are going in this direction. I still am not undermining, I think, what coders and software developers do. I think they have a huge role to play even today and would continue to do so. But in order to make this analogy, I'm just taking a random example that let's say I reach the capabilities of software development via 60 to 70% of what a software developer can do, let's say in a couple of years. The real moat lies, I think, then in distribution. Because if you, I, uh, I don't know, Prakash and Ramesh and Siddharth and Rahul and Aditi and Sonia, all of these people can make a replica of DocuSign. Who wins? The person who would win is, I think, one who know what they are doing.
Right.
Why are they making a replica of DocuSign in the first place? Right?
Right.
And second, those who know the dynamics, the understanding of the market, and the most important thing is how to build distribution.
Right.
Because distribution is one thing that AI cannot build for you today, and I don't think it will be able to build it for you in the next few years as well. I can't give a prompt to Claude and say that, you know what, get me 100,000 followers on LinkedIn. That's not possible. It can suggest me ways, it can give me playbooks. Some sort of playbooks exist on LinkedIn as well. There is a lot of slop out there. But this distribution is going to be very key. It's going to be a very important moat for all software companies going forward, then how product is being commoditized. So that's how things are changing in the market. And when it especially comes to GTM, I'll give you one more quick example maybe. So I'm working with a client called Patcare, right?
Okay.
And we just started, I think in the first quarter, we did a pilot and now I'm heading their GTM in a fractional capacity. The kind of work that I'm doing like as an IC for them today, right? As an IC GTM leader, if I had to do the same amount of work with the same amount of effectiveness, let's say 5 years back, 1 days of today's work was equivalent to at least a couple of weeks, if not a month. So what I'm trying to say is in 2021, if I were spending 1 month, an entire 22 working days in building something, that takes me a day today to do it. So
Completely makes sense.
that's how much things have changed. There is a lot of workflows we have created, we have put on automation. There are a lot of campaigns that we have been able to create in a very short period of time. There are a lot of things that we have put on automation which are working extremely well. And we have been able to do this in a very sustainable, organic, and in a very healthy manner. So we don't send like 10,000 emails in a day, but we also don't send 10. So we
Okay.
have maintained a very healthy ratio in which we are getting the desired output. And we are very slowly and steadily and organically increasing the input ratios to see how the output ratios vary. So we are building it in a very sustainable manner and not getting all hyped up because of all the noise that is out there. But that's how effective things have become. Every single campaign has multiple lines of personalized emails being sent to highly qualified and researched prospects. And only like this aspect of the workflow takes days and weeks if you don't do it without AI. Very powerful, very effective if you use it in the right way, but you need taste. you need timing, very good human judgment. So with the combination all of this, you can go like a lot of places with AI today.
Makes sense. Makes sense. So, like there are two stuff over here, two things. One, you correctly mentioned, which is distribution. Distribution actually plays a major role in the current scenario because, like, problem people are, easy to find a problem, and with AI coming in, it's very easy to develop the product, right? Prototyping, building a product, and everything. That's pretty simple today. Like, but finding that moat, finding the distribution, finding those that's pretty difficult to crack right now.
Right.
So if I say there's a company who is starting now, who is in their very early stage of just building a product. Okay, as you mentioned, you have already done that's for the podcast. Just wanted to understand, like, if a company who's starting now, who has just developed the product, or maybe are in just in the MVP stage. Okay, who have just figured out a problem, built a solution. How would their 0 to 1 journey would look like? Like from hiring, like onboarding their initial set of design users to converting them into a full pilot, like a paid customer, and then onboarding, say, like 0 to like some 10 paid customers, and then like taking things that, how does that work in today's world?
Got it. So, Prabhakar, we need to take a step back here in order to answer this question. So, every single month, I speak to at least, I think, 7 to 10 founders. Most of them are early stage, setting up their MVPs. They have not reached a PMF yet, and they are in their very tough 0 to 1 stage. And I also come across like a lot of auspicious people, some of them being founders as well, who are, I think, who are being driven more from FOMO than from a place of intent. What I mean by this is, like, I've had conversations with a lot of people who have built something, right, with AI. What they have built is either something that the market already has or had like a few years ago or does not need, or in which they have zero background or they have no intention to solve a problem in which. So the other day, someone was showing me, I think, some AI tool that he vibe coded over the weekend, which analyzes cold calls from SDRs. You can
Okay.
upload those cold calls or transcripts or whatever in the tool. And then it would give you some sort of segregation in terms of how the SDR could do better score than a lot. This is so preliminary and basic today that it
Yeah.
should ideally be a separate platform altogether.
Right.
A single meeting tool, a single Gong and a Woma and all of these tools already have this. And this is just a very small functionality. The person did not have any sales background, understand their customers very well. And when I tried to dig deep into what you're trying to do, they could not really answer in terms of what kind of problem they are trying to solve. They
Mm.
just that this would be cool to make, and he made it, and now he's trying to understand how to sell it, even without knowing if he has solved some problem, some gap in the market or not. So I think that's the starting point. That's why I said that we need to take a step back. We need to go at a stage where we are absolutely sure of what kind of problem we are solving for what kind of audience. If you know that, I think a lot of things become easy after that. The
Right.
reason being, I think the 0 to 1 journey can be very messy. It's mostly messy, I think, for 90% of the folks, but it can be even more messy if you don't know who you have built your product, who you have built your solution for. This is one common thread, one common scenario I've seen with multiple founders, that they're still trying to understand where this fits.
Right.
So
Figuring out the right ICP in that case, right?
rather than working backwards from the ICP and the problem, they have built something and now they are trying to retrofit that solution and find the right customers. I'm
Right.
not saying that's a bad thing or that's a wrong thing to do always.
Mm-hmm.
The right or the ideal way to do it is that you should definitely know who the primary audience for your product, for your service, for your platform is, right?
Makes sense.
If you're clear about at least your primary audience, you can always go and find secondary audience for it, right?
Right. Right.
Example, Gong also has a use case with HR professionals. where it's like helping a lot of talent acquisition folks and recruitment, right? But that's
Right.
a secondary use case. Its primary use case still lies with sales and marketing and GTM teams. So that's what I'm trying to say. In order to figure this 0 to 1 journey out, you need to be absolutely clear about your primary ICP, your primary audience, and what kind of problem you're trying to solve for them. If you're absolutely clear on this, I think you will cover most of the 0 to 1 journey with or without someone like me or a GTM expert or anyone. Only the founding team will be able to do that 0 to 100K, which is the most messy part.
Right.
And on 100K, you get this confidence. You get to learn a lot. You get to make mistakes and learn from them. You know what's working, you know what's not working, how the market is responding to things, what kind of messaging works, what doesn't. But in order to reach that, you need to be very clear about the step 0 or step -1, right? When it comes to the 0 to 1 journey, unfortunately, there is no one right answer. There is no magic pill that retrofits to every business. So, for example, again, the 3 clients that I'm working with today, not all of them are in their 0 to 1 journeys, but when they were, and 2 of them are right now, they are not the same. So, the kind of engagement I have with them and the kind of GTM I'm building for them as well, it's not the same. It's totally different. So for one, we are taking an absolutely different approach, which is purely outbound. For one, we are only focusing on inbound, and for one, we are only focusing on partnerships. And the right question to ask is why not all three with all of them? Or why not one single motion with all three of them? Because it totally depends on the kind of business line they are in, the kind of product or service they have, the kind of stage that they are at, and also the kind of founders that I'm working with, what their mindset is, what their mentality is. All of these variables combined, put together, along with whatever expertise you want to get from the market in terms of GTM sales marketing, all of that amalgamation leads to a strategy that can figure out this 0 to 1 motion. So, for example, what I did with quizzes in 0 to 1, we took it from 100K to 1 million in less than 1 year. I did my way. But what goes to say, if I had done it in a totally different way, maybe we could have done 2 instead of 1 million. Or maybe we could have done only $50,000, right? I don't know. But I do know what we did to achieve, probably what we did achieve, right? And it depends, yeah. It depends on what the ticket size is, what the audience is, what the industry is. If I'm working in cybersecurity, if I'm working in fintech, if I'm working in martech, if I'm working with service-based industry, what is the sales cycle look like? Which stage of PMF have you achieved? Are you
Mhm.
bootstrapped? Are you venture funded? There are so many variables involved in answering this
Right.
question that there is just no one right answer to it.
Yeah, and it like completely makes sense. Like it totally depends on the product, solution, and geography. Everything matters over here, right? Uh,
Obviously.
till we find their product market fit, and apart from that, it's just about repeating those process in order to take things ahead from like once things are established in terms of the product market fit, right?
I can I can give you some sort of an answer very quickly in the next minute. So what you can do is, if you are unsure, you can run a lot of high velocity experiments, right? So
Mhm.
let's say I come in as an advisor or an operator and I don't know what the right answer is. So what I can do is, in the next 4 weeks, I can run very high velocity small experiments. Let's say one in outbound, one in inbound, one in performance marketing. There's one in partnerships, one in cold calling, and something else. And then in the next 2 or 3 weeks, I will see some signals. If outbound is producing some sort of an intent or some sort of signals, if maybe spending money on performance marketing or ads is generating some sort of engagement, and you can quickly double down on those and see if that doubles down your output on. So that is one way through which you can at least understand where these low hanging fruit lie and where your GTM motion can be built in terms of like a sustainable engine. But you need to
Makes
do
sense.
these very methodically. So it can't
Okay.
be, let's bring $10,000, like burn them on ads, and let's bring an SDR and make like 10,000 calls in a month. It can't be like random. It has to have a method to the madness, if you may.
Right, right. Completely makes sense. So, so while building this Unix, I had the opportunity to speak with a lot of people who were in their early stage of building the product. They were a bit skeptical about finding the right ICP, a bit skeptical about whether like the positioning thing. Okay, so a product A can be positioned in three different ways. Okay. So what kind of problem or what kind of stuff would work for me, or those kind of thing was bit like tricky for them. So that is what I have realized while speaking with this early stage founder. So what do you think? Like, how does positioning matters? How does, based on that those positioning, the early sales strategies, the outreach process, be it from the inbound or be it from the outbound or be it from the partnership which you have mentioned earlier, how does those stuff matters over here?
I'll maybe try to take this one with the help of like an analogy, maybe. Have you heard of the whole truth?
Whole?
The whole truth.
You're talking about the brand Whole Truth?
Yes.
Yeah, yeah, that I have heard.
So today I was eating a protein bar, I think in
Yeah.
the middle of from the whole truth, right? I think I came across one of their case studies a few months back where they only changed, I think, their packaging, which is the outside layer of the protein bar, let's say, right? Only the packaging, how it's labeled and everything, that led to, I don't know, like a 4x, 5x, 10x, whatever that number or multiplier is in terms of their sales and revenue. Just one single change, right? Why I'm taking this example is that if they had known that this sort of a minimalistic packaging works, they would have done it in the first place only, right? They wouldn't have to have a worse packaging in the first place. And that's how it usually is with these messaging in the first initial stages, in the 0 to 1 stages of any company as well. You come up with a thesis, you come up with certain aspects of what you have built, and you try to articulate it in your own language because you only know what you have built from scratch. You know, obviously always take help of AI today. But in terms of features, in terms of the problems that your product or service can solve, in terms of who the right kind of audience is, uh, what kind of language do they resonate with, you come up with some thesis and you try to develop some sort of a messaging. And that's the messaging you use in your outbound emails, on your website, in your brochures, your about us page, right? And more often than not, it's the case that it does not resonate with the audience because what you have built or what you are saying is your truth, right? And nobody's denying that. That's 100% correct. But the market always understands it from their perspective. So this is one common mistake I've seen, I think, multiple times with early stage startups as well, that they write their truth and their satya inside their communication product websites and everything. But what they don't think about is how the audience would perceive it. If that's the language that the audience understands, resonates with, uses or not. That's the most essential thing. So the right way to do it is you dump down everything that you know and that you want to say and that exists inside your product, features, services, and all. And then on the right hand side, you only think about your audience and what they understand. And then you find a match for those, right? You try to articulate whatever you want to in a way which is very relatable to your audience. You need to use the right set of words. You need to use the right set of structural sentences. You need to use the right set of lingo. You might or might not want to embed some cultural aspects into your communication as well, depending on the kind of brand you are building. And an amalgamation of all that might or might not be the right messaging that resonates. Again, the right answer to find this, especially in a 0 to 1 stage, is you conduct like a lot of experiments, right? So just with your website, you can conduct so many experiments using, I'm not trying to promote my ex company, but BW exactly does this where you can A/B test like multiple home pages, multiple product pages, and see which ones are converting better, right? And there is a reason that the world of experimentation exists in the first place, is because what is in your control is hypothesis. You can build up a hypothesis that you think that does work or that will be decided by the market. So the right way to do it is you build multiple hypotheses, see what's resonating with the audience, and double and triple down. And I'm very much the same with messaging as well. Uh, if your outbound email communication is where all these tools have something as variation, and variations stuff. You build multiple hypotheses and you test it with a lot of variations and then see which variations are performing better, derive learnings from them, embed it in your next channel of communication. And that's how after 10 iterations you have the perfect sort of messaging that can work with your audience.
Yeah, completely makes sense. Anuj, also, I wanted to know there are companies who are building specifically for enterprise companies. Okay, and there are people or startups they are building for say SMBs or a mid-market organization. Okay, so how does the sales strategy or the early GTM motion works different if you're targeting an enterprise companies and if you're targeting say SMB or mid-market companies? What do you think?
So it's very different, yeah. I mean, see, enterprise sales is a very different beast altogether. We are talking about ticket size of more than 100, $150,000. We are talking about very long sales cycles. In cycles, I remember our typical sales cycle used to last at least for a year, and the average for an SDR was 1.5 years. So many SDRs did not even see any of their deals convert because they were out of this before anything from the pipeline convert, right? So enterprise sales is like that's a you you have to do so much in terms of building the right sort of relationships, and getting inside the organization with multiple touch points in a possible way. You have to be very patient. You have to have a grip on multiple stakeholders. You need to understand their business line really well, and it's not a very hard move. It's like this game, but the volume is not very high. So that's enterprise sales, right? That's a different beast altogether. In terms of SMB and mid market, right? Especially SMB. SMB is very high volume, high velocity. We're talking about short deal sizes. We are also talking about very high volume. And we also talking about very impulsive decisions from the buyers as well. Ticket size of less than $5,000 might not necessarily need an approval or a green light from, let's say, procurement, right? It never reaches there. And mid market is somewhere in between both of these worlds. So 20, $25,000, $30,000, something like this, where it's important, but not so critical that, you need 10 people to say yes in the buyer's organization, right?
Right.
So when it comes to a seller, now I've done all these three types of markets and all these three types of segments, right? The kind of mindset you need and the kind of strategy you need to is totally different. SMB thrives on a lot of momentum. If I'm not closing deals on a weekly basis, even if they are very low ticket size, even $1,000, $1,500, the momentum soon dies out, right? And that can really take a hit or a toll on my confidence, on my leadership as well. And usually product based companies are not very fond of SMB sales. They are always thinking of ways of making it self-serve. So this is always running either in parallel or in the background or as a separate thread, where they would put a minimum cap on, let's say, the ticket size, that no salesperson is to sell anything less than $2,000, and anything less than $2,000 should be self-served. Someone goes to the website and purchases like a single license for themselves, right? So there, the value of the product and flow in which he can make a self-serve sort of a product also matters a lot, right? So I've seen like the SMB sales people always, I think, on tender hooks with probably the leadership in terms of what the minimum ticket size is, what I can do, what I cannot do. But the most important thing is momentum, volume, and very high velocity. Right. Mid market, I think, is somewhere in the middle. I've already discussed enterprise. Mid market is you need some sort of a strategy in order to penetrate the account that you are probably reaching out to. There can be multiple stakeholders in the buyer's organization as well. It might or might not be a tool which is a must have. It might be something which is a good to have, but with a must have, I'm talking about like a CRM. With a good to have, I'm talking about, I don't know, some workflow automation which makes my life easier, right?
Yep.
So in mid market, it's not that you don't need any strategy at all. You do need it, but not as extensive as enterprise. And the average sales cycle can easily be from like anywhere between a month to 3 to 4 months, maybe.
Okay. And one more thing. So during this early stages, okay, it's very easy to like get those demos done. It's easy to like set up the process, like the outreach process and everything. So during your 0 to 1 journey, okay, what were the common objections which you faced when converting from initial level of discussion to a full-fledged customer? What were the common challenges which you faced? Say like you can consider your journey at quizzes as well.
So in my 0 to 1 in quizzes, the question is what kind of objections I faced,
Right.
and not necessarily to a particular segment, or is it to a particular segment as well?
See, we are trying to understand over like from the initial phase of the prospecting or the initial level of discussion, what are the challenges which come into picture to converting them into a full-fledged customers when when you're in the initial days, when you don't have your case studies, when you don't have proper
Good.
things in picture to showcase those value proposition and everything. So how do you convert in the initial days?
Got it. Yeah. So if you do not have those initial 5, 10, 15, 20 customers, it is very hard, like extremely hard, which is why I think I always suggest, I think founders in these stages, at least in this stage, is to get your first 5 or 10 customers yourself. Don't hire a salesperson. Don't try to burn your money on, don't try to kick off outbound. Don't try to probably do some other weird thing that you think will get you your first 5 to 10 customers. And usually the right way is to get it from your internal network, either from people you have already worked with, or someone in your network, or someone who trusts you, or someone who's able to take a bet on you. Any of these folks, right? It's at least your first 5 or 6 customers. That's super important. And no salesperson should get themselves involved unless the founders have figured this out themselves. The reason being that if they can't even find the first 5 or 6 customers themselves, the company is not going to go anywhere. Gone are those days when you could hire like a Jordan Belfort and a Wolf of Wall Street and take your sales up to the moon. Sure, that might exist in some sphere of the world even today. But selling ice to an Eskimo and all of that, like, does not really exist in the practical world. If I, as a founder, have built something, let's say in cybersecurity, I know what kind of audience I've built it for, what kind of gap I've filled. And because I've done this in cybersecurity, I would obviously have some sort of a network or connections or anything in that world, which I should 100% leverage and get those first 5 to 6 case studies. Once I have those, now you can or might not have a salesperson. It totally depends on you. But now things become like at least 5 to 10% easier, because at least there is someone who can vouch for you, and at least you can use some of these client names inside your communication to your prospective clients. You can always say that, X company in your industry already trusts us with our solution or with our product. This is a very good reason for you to at least talk to us, if not buy from us, right? Because most of the people would not even look at you if you're just noise in the market who's doing the same thing as everyone else is. So a very good differentiator, one moat that we spoke about was distribution. Another we can speak about is your existing clientele customers and your relationship with them. That's an extremely important moat as well in the AI world that we live in today. Because if you have closed your first initial customers in one specific industry, let's say, you can double down on it, triple down on it, like just go and chase that industry and get as many clients as possible, right?
Right.
And then only try to find parallel use cases in other industries as well. But those initial set of people and businesses who are taking a bet on you, who are trusting you, that's super important. Otherwise, you might like bang your head against the wall a lot of times at a lot of places, and those conversations might not go anywhere, even if you have the best product in the world.
Right, makes sense. Yeah, Anuj, so those were the questions from my side. Thank you so much for taking time and doing this for us. And Anuj, to be honest, like he's been helping a lot of early stage founders in their GTM journey. If anyone wants help or perspective how to think things that I'll add Anuj's social media links and details with this podcast. And Yeah, that's it from our side. Thank you, Anuj, for taking time and doing this for us.
Yeah, absolutely, Prabhakar. Thanks for having me. Had a lovely time, and let's do this again sometime.
Sure, sure. Okay, thank you
Yeah.
so much.
Thanks. Bye.